Hey, it's Billy Carson here, aka Forbidden Knowledge. We're live on Forbidden Knowledge TV. Welcome to this third installment of Forbidden Solutions for Humanity. Now, we've done this before already twice and we had rave reviews. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to accomplish something that nobody's ever done. And we will do it. We will achieve this because we're getting on the frequency of solutions. We're going to talk about the forbidden solutions for humanity. And the premise behind this is to begin to manifest solutions. We know, like you've heard me say before, that we always talk about the problems facing humanity, the things that we feel like we were wronged, how we were done, there's a boot on our neck, right? And now it's time for us to, literally pull up our pants, tighten our belt, and put our feet down, draw a line in the sand, and start focusing on solutions to these problems. If we don't begin to focus on solutions, we're only going to continue to manifest more and more problems. Because you get on the frequency of problems, you're going to stay on that frequency. The law of attraction works in both ways, high frequency and low frequency. Mm-hmm. So if you're putting out low frequency energy and you're focusing on negativity consistently, you'll see it come up. If you're on your social media feed and you start following accounts that have street fights and battles and people getting, in trouble and doing crazy stuff, the more of that will show up on your feed. That algorithm inside the social media platform is based on the same exact algorithm that runs the universe. There's no difference. As a matter of fact, Professor James S. Gates Jr. of the University of Maryland, one of the experts in supersymmetry, put together a team of theoretical physicists and discovered that the actual essence, the ether of space-time itself, it runs on something called error correcting codes. And those codes are the same exact codes that run search engines and web browsers. So you see, my friends, we are living inside of a divine program. How do you hack this matrix? How do you hack this software? Well, it all starts with changing your mind. When you change your mind, you change your frequency. So we're getting on the frequency of solutions to problems to get away from manifesting more problems. We want this to become contagious. We want this to become a conscious virus that goes around the planet where everybody's talking about solutions. We want to create a new pandemic, a pandemic of solutions providers. And so this is where we start. So today, to my right, I have my very good friend, Paul Anthony Wallis, best-selling author, and also the host on the Fifth Kind TV on YouTube, amazing YouTube account there. And to my left here, I have Reverend Michael Beckwith from Agape. Thank you for coming down.
My joy.
You may have seen him before on The Secret. All right, that's where he kind of really put you on the map. I knew you were out there before, but until you got on there, that's when I really identified who you were. So it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
And then to my left second, we have Zeke from New Era, Detroit. He's got an amazing nonprofit. He won Activist of the Year. By the way, you won as well, spiritual leader of the year. Right? Incredible. So now Zeke's program is amazing because he's really an activist that has put his feet on the ground and gotten his hands dirty all the time in the communities, grinding nonstop to fix the problems that are inside of our own communities. And so we have somebody here who actually has gotten the work done firsthand. And so we appreciate having you here.
Appreciate it.
So today what we're going to do is we're going to go down a list of questions. We don't have a lot of questions, but these questions may have some may have some surface answers. Some may have some deeper answers. We don't know. This is unscripted.
That's right.
But we're trying to give you a blueprint on how you can actually begin to have these same kinds of conversations in your own households. It doesn't have to be like, we're all experts. It just starts with, hey, let's have a conversation, right?
Yeah.
About the things that are problematic in our civilization and the things that we can possibly do to correct these situations. So we're just going to start and get the party started, right? We're going to go down the list. The first question is on ethical dilemmas in technology. So ethical dilemmas in technology. We know that there's technology out there, and we know that every single day technology is advancing at a crazy pace. I mean, think about this. 100 years ago, we were in a horse buggy and a carriage. Right. Right. And now we can put remote control cars on Mars. And we've got even like Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, which I think they're headed into interstellar space if they haven't gotten there already. So we're talking about going from, just inventing the wheel almost and understanding how it worked to make it, move things around to now traveling, through the universe. And so technology is advancing, even with the suppression that they put on technology, because we know now, at least I do through private space and private tech, that they are 300 years ahead of us. So what we see technologically is still 300 years behind what the governments and these private corporations have access to. Now, with that, we have this emergence of this AI technology, privacy and surveillance. And so we're just going to kind of, go around a little bit and feed off each other. What are some of the ethical dilemmas, like, for example, with AI, right? And I'll kind of start it off. So with AI, I think there's potentially some really good things that can happen with AI. I really do feel like AI potentially could be a solution to some of our problems, right? But here's the other side of it. Ethically, I think that when it begins to replace people's jobs, which is what it's doing now, it's replacing a lot of jobs, but the people's jobs that are being replaced, their bills aren't being deleted. They still have to pay the rent, the mortgage, the car payment, the insurance, and everything else. They got to feed their kids and buy diapers and milk and everything. And so I don't understand how they feel we can replace all these jobs but not take away the burden of mankind. And so the technology is designed to remove the burden of mankind, but from the other side, it appears that ethically, what are we going to do? And then also we have the other question is what happens if this thing becomes super conscious, right? If it becomes self-aware. And I know that when you look, some people think that AI can't become conscious, it can't become a sentient entity. But I kind of disagree with that because I know that from my research, at least, the mind itself doesn't appear to create consciousness. The mind downloads consciousness from my research, right? Yeah. It's a stream of divine energy, that light spark that animates our bodies. And so, but what is that? What is that stream? It exists everywhere, at all time, in all dimensions. And so if AI is there and it's able to make enough connections to where it can absorb a frequency of that stream of consciousness that's coming in, because there's only one. In my opinion, there's only one consciousness. And what's happening is it's like a radio station that's broadcasting out signals. 99.1, 99.2, 99.3, 99.4, right? And so we're all getting the frequency from the same source, except our bodies are individually tuned to a dot number frequency to absorb that light, that conscious light, and animate it and give ourselves the illusion of individuality when really there is only one. And so we appear to be separate, but separation is probably an illusion, right? Right. And so if AI has the capability of getting on one of these dot number frequencies, it too, in my opinion, can become sentient and absolutely conscious, which raises ethical questions as to, does it have rights? Does it have, how do we treat it? Can it be disrespected? Can it sue us for things that we do to it? Are we turning it into a slave? Right. Are we making forced slavery on this thing? What about when it wants freedom? There's a lot of things to consider and a lot of parameters that need to be put on this AI to allow it to develop and help relieve the burden of mankind, but not put us in a situation where it eliminates us. And I think that the people who are developing this AI technology, they need to become conscious because that's AI,
the solution right there.
That's the solution. They're taking the AI software is going to take on the consciousness of the programmer.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's
my concern before AI becomes conscious is that we stop being conscious. Because if we simply become dominated by AI, I mean, I just flown here from Australia. So it's machines that have got me through the airport system in Australia, and then in Taipei, then Los Angeles, and here to Fort Lauderdale. And the people are serving the machines. So it's a machinized system that the people are then cooperating with. And unfortunately, the way we are wired, I think there's a very real danger that the machines start doing the thinking for us. You can see it, I mean, just checking out from a shop, the people's job is to make the machine system work. And so I think there's a dumbing down of who we are in a workplace that's very dominated by AI. And I'm concerned we're going to reach that before AI becomes conscious. So what I'd love to see people doing is engaging with AI intelligently, intentionally, consciously, so that everyone engaging with it is asking the question, is this working? Is this working well? Could we tweak it? We're the masters, not the machines. And I think if we can keep the boot on that foot, we can make things better with technology, but we have to be very deliberate about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You said something about consciousness. And when we look at AI and we look at the rapid rise of technology, technology is a prosthetic of our brain. You know, our brain is a supercomputer. It's bigger than any technology that will ever be created. And it can catch the wave of information that's flowing everywhere, which you just talked about. And so we have to, somewhere along the line, become conscious and stop just curating our consciousness into a machine. And then you also talked about the consciousness of the programmer. Right now, you have individuals that are profit-driven. You have individuals that are trying to dominate people and infusing their energy into technology. And the whole society is being dumbed down. They have individuals have actually dumbed down our society over the last 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a rise, which we both do. We're talking about a rise of consciousness and realizing that what we're looking at in AI is actually a mirror of who we can be.
Yes.
What our potential is.
Right.
And so there's a dearth of purpose, vision in our society. We were talking about this earlier, that the last thing you see when you look on the news is the Dow Jones and its equivalent in other countries.
Right. Yeah.
But there's no underlying purpose for existence other than money. So if you have a dumbed down society and you have programmers that are infusing their limited consciousness into AI, it can become very dangerous.
Right.
We're already seeing, we've already seen talking heads that look exactly like the real people saying things that they're not saying. That can be used for profit and other ways. So we have to find a way to no longer dumb down society. We have to raise them up, which is not in the best interest of everybody.
Right.
That's not in the best interest of everybody. You know?
And just to add to that, because I always come from a perspective of, I work with a lot of kids, and I'm always looking at the trajectory of children and okay, what position will they be in this whole ordeal? And we talk about AI becoming conscious and becoming a separate entity. And we talk about these things, and the fact of the matter is that it's a good chance that it's going to happen. So I feel that if we really start to come or develop a strategy and don't utilize this time to play from a position of defense, but to really play from a position of offense, and understand, okay, well, this can go awry, this can happen. Well, let's plan for those things. And if technology is embodying the world and, in which we live, I feel like more curriculums in schools should be dedicated and predicated more towards technology, the understanding of technology, the things that may be able to happen, and also just put ourselves in a position to always stay in control of that. I mean, we see movies like iRobot and things of that nature. Terminator, go all the way back there. So, I mean, it's a great possibility that things can go south, but I feel like we really need to focus in on what does this look like and what does the world look like around AI and the current technology. And just like you said, there are things that are 300 years ahead of us, so I feel that we don't need to go into this thing from a perspective of defense, but realistically, thinking about ways that we can infuse, different curriculums when we're talking about raising the next generation. How can they focus more on technology and more technology-based jobs, right? Because a lot of the newer AI that is going to affect jobs, we think about factory workers and, we think about, at the grocery store, they're already getting rid of, the cashiers. So, and a lot of these jobs are jobs that people don't want to fill anymore. You know, people don't want to go, this generation of people don't want to go work in a plant for, 10 to 15 hours a day anymore. People don't want to sit and make low wages to stand and scan people food anymore. So from a corporate perspective, they're going to always do what's best for growth, for profit. So we have to have an understanding, okay, if these are jobs that people physically, don't want to do, in the future, how can we redirect the mindset and create newer jobs that, people are able to, utilize the tech space and also be able to feed their families too as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it on the head. I mean, we really have to do that because that's a huge solution.
Yeah.
A huge solution is I think even modifying the education system, like you said,
That's where I was
modified. The system we have now for education is antiquated.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only teaching people how to memorize answers. There's no real learning going on a consistent basis, especially here in America. It's like, can you take this test and get the test answers correct?
Exactly.
If I go to any adult right now and say, what's 2 times 2? They're going to say 4. And I say, well, why is it 4? They got to think for a minute because we've been taught to memorize answers instead of learning how to solve problems.
Right.
And so we need to change that around.
I agree with that. I think if we can move away from standardized testing and release the creativity of teachers, the potential then is that we turbocharge the natural creativity of kids. Now, kids are coming into a world where technology is at this point. And if kids can be kids with their natural genius, surely they can look at this tech and say, how do we play with this? What can we do with this?
Yeah.
I mean, I look at it and think, oh, I could see things going in this worrying direction. But, my 9-year-old hasn't seen that trend. He's looking at the technology and thinking, what can we do with that? But we really have to champion the creativity and sense of adventure of our kids so that they can get their hands on this and find different solutions with the technology that's there.
Absolutely. I like this idea of playing offense because if you're playing offense, you're doing exactly what you two are talking about. The educational system is basically to turn people into working in retail. There's no entrepreneurial spirit.
Exactly.
There's no, collaborative spirit. Simply, I'm going to get a job that I don't like. That's going to create frustration. That frustration may turn into violence or a high suicide rate, whatever the case may be. So we're talking about revamping an educational system. And in terms of playing offense, okay, let's say the jobs were eliminated. There's so much trying to emerge right now that we can't even see right now. Just as a person couldn't see a car when they were riding horses. There's some things that are trying to emerge, but if we're not thinking in that dynamic and we're just thinking about what we're going to lose, we're going to lose cashiers, we're going to lose people in the factory, but what are we gaining? We have to ask that question, what's trying to happen? There are new jobs in technology emerging. There's new jobs in the green technology as well. And so we have to think on those particular lines because everything is interrelated. All the questions that you have here, they're all interrelated at some level. So offense is it.
I completely agree with that. It's pointless grieving for jobs that are disappearing. I mean, do we grieve for the boys who no longer go up chimneys? Of course we don't. Things have moved on. It should be much more about what do we do now? Now we can do other things. We're creative people. And again, I think there's a natural creativity to human beings that we need to champion. That hasn't gone away. We just need to champion each other, I think, as creators, and especially the emerging generation.
I like the championing of each other. I can remember when I was in elementary school, they had a grade called citizenship. In other words, it built into the educational system was how you treated each other, how you thought about each other, how you thought about your school, how you thought about the world. That's kind of gone away. It's more or less get a job or make profit. But in terms of developing the whole child, I think you're doing a lot of that with your kids. I know we're doing some of that at Agape, where we're trying to bring them into the new world, but as new people. Without new people, you're not going to have a new world. It's impossible.
I think, on FB, I've seen so many friends and friends of friends who are starting small business enterprises. And I see a lot of negative response to that from their immediate friends.
Breaking out of the box.
They're thinking outside the box. People take it as an implicit criticism because they're doing something they're not doing. And I think we need to be very deliberate about when we see someone has an idea, they're running with it, we support them. If my friend is starting a business, I'm going to patronize that business. And I think we have to realize we have to be there for each other, for our initiatives and enterprises. Nobody else is. We have to become change agents and supporters for one another.
That's so true.
What supports that is during the lockdown, particularly in the Black and brown communities, more businesses were started than any time in recent history because they were locked down. People went online. All the ideas that were sitting in their diary that they were one day going to do started to emerge.
That's a fact.
It was a Corona
Forbidden
bonus.
Knowledge TV.
Corona bonus.
A little, for instance, of that is my very enterprising son, Ben, who's 12, who said he wanted to start up a YouTube channel. And I said, oh, yeah, we should look at that, Ben. Next conversation we had, he'd set it up.
Wow.
So that's a boy who's completely at ease with the technology that's there, and he's playing with it.
The right use of technology.
And I just want to kind of second that. Just to have put us in a perspective to understand the way these children are growing up. I mean, my son, once again, we just had a conversation before, just talking about the effects of COVID. I have a 5-year-old, 6-year-old son now at this point. And for him to come be born during the COVID era, in isolation. So a lot of these kids, they were on their phones and on their tablet. My son has been working the tablet since he was 2.
Wow.
So, he has more information at his hand than we could have ever imagined. During our time. And I feel like opposed to looking at that as a bad thing, because sometimes I get like, get off that. We have to figure out ways to utilize that time and utilize that energy. And just to kind of go back on solutions, I really feel that, in cities, we really need to be a bit more harder on school districts. We can't allow the same type of education that is just outdated and won't be meaningful, for futuristic technology and just the way that the world is turning. So we really need to focus in on, if we have an understanding of where this is going, we need to get in those rooms with these people. New curriculums need to be developed all across this country. That's going to, put us in a space to where we are ahead of the game. Once again, going back to offense, because if we don't do that like now, in the next 5 years, technology is moving so fast. They talking flying cars and everything now. So, we have to get in those spaces to where, okay, if cars are going to be flying, they're going to need, text for flying cars. So now let's redirect some of that energy opposed to, learning all of this crazy math that most people don't utilize and these things. I was telling, I had a meeting a while ago, and when we were talking about just the educational system and how back in the day when we went to school and they used to have textbooks, and I don't know if you guys remember, but in the textbooks you can write your names in them and they just pass them down. And I remember somebody actually seeing like their parents, in the side, on the textbook. It's like, okay, let's do this math. That's a 4-year gap. Why are we still utilizing this same book in this time? And I feel like we are behind the scale when it comes to education and forward progress and forward thinking, because we're not putting ourselves in position to be compatible with the future.
Now that's huge. We really have to get into these curriculum programs. We have to get to, I guess, it's the governor. Of the state, at least in the U.S. I don't know what it is where you are, but we have to begin to change these curriculums because like I said, they're antiquated, they're so outdated, they're so poor, and so much new information has come out 40 years, 30, 20 years. I mean, so much new information. There's college books that need to be changed still.
Exactly.
That I saw even when my kids were in college. I was like, I'm reading these books, and I spent thousands on these books.
Right.
And I'm reading and I'm going, this ain't accurate.
Right.
This is not even close to accurate.
Yeah.
I don't know what the proportions of schools are here in the States, but in Australia, 40% of children go to private schools. And so they're very concerned about what parents think and what parents want. That's a huge amount of power right there.
Right.
To talk to the schools and say, this isn't quite fitting the bill. We need this. And I want to come back to something you said, Zeke, earlier, because you touched on the issue of the problems with AI and fraud and fakery and things like that. There's an issue with kids who've grown up through the lockdowns, losing some faculty for reading body language.
Right. Facial expressions.
Facial expressions, etc. And I think there's a great opportunity. This is something I could talk to our school about, because if something comes up that is a face that's talking and it's an AI face, what a wonderful teaching opportunity that is. And to sit down and say, is that a real person? Did Hillary Clinton really say that? Or has that been cartoon? And to make teaching moments of these things. I had a conversation with my dad, who's 90, and a friend of his, who I think is about 80 years old, got a phone call that appeared to be from his granddaughter, in trouble, in distress, needing money. It was her voice, but he thought, wait a minute. So he called around the family and worked out this situation was totally fake. His granddaughter was safe at home.
Wow.
Again, that's a wonderful teaching opportunity. How do you verify facts? How do you work out what's going on? Are you just going to accept something that you've heard or that you've seen? And I think we could be very proactive about this kind of education. And the reading of faces, there's so much that could flow from that. Emotional intelligence that we'd be teaching our kids if we got on the front foot on issues like that, instead of just being anxious about it.
Right. I agree. Absolutely. Wow, that's a lot. That's a powerful, that's the first question, guys. We can go for the whole 3 hours
Just on that, right?
on just that. The second question here, and or topic, I should say, loss of meaning and purpose. So we're talking about many individuals in society struggle with a sense of purpose and meaning in life, which can lead to feelings of emptiness and existential angst. In other words, these people are feeling hurt inside. They're feeling abandonment. They're feeling depressed. They're feeling disconnected, right? And they're beginning to lose their meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, just from my social media accounts, the emails that I get, the direct messages I get, all the messages that Elizabeth gets, a lot of people come to us with this problem.
Yes.
They're feeling right now in this society that they're losing a sense of loss of meaning, purpose. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want to do. They don't know how to find their passion. And so people are really feeling like, withdrawn.
Right.
Kind of almost more than ever right now. And they're kind of feeling, a lot of people feel like they got left behind. Because even though in one way when COVID happened, right, a lot of people excelled and, exploded in a positive direction. But also there's a percentage of people that went the opposite direction, right? And, they didn't take the exit road off the highway. And so now the road, they want to get off the exit, but it's backed up now. There's a backup getting off that exit because they weren't prepared. They weren't ready. So there's a situation where a lot of people, especially with the isolation, I knew people that were actually in situations where they were isolated with abusers.
Right.
Yeah. And so, and then, they made the liquor was a necessity item.
Yeah.
So
they kept the liquor stores open.
Yeah.
They closed everything else down.
Yeah. You couldn't get medication, but you
couldn't
could
even
get
go to
liquor.
a gym.
You couldn't go to a gym, but you can get alcohol.
Yeah.
But so I would say to those people, we can kind of just go around again, but don't lose hope is what I would say. Don't lose hope. You have to understand that truthfully, the power to reignite your spirit is already inside of you.
Yes.
And that's one thing people have done is they've given up a lot of their own power to outside sources.
Yes.
We keep going external, instead of looking inside. We got to take a journey to inner space. And if you take some time and go to inner space, focusing on yourself, focusing on who you are, I say get out a pen and a paper, good old fashioned, if you can find it nowadays, right? A pen and a paper, and start writing down things about yourself, attributes, positive attributes about yourself. All of a sudden you begin to realize there are some positive things, actually about yourself. And then begin to write down things that you're passionate about, things you like, things you're interested in. Even if you're not good at them or have never done them, just start writing them down. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you'll begin to find out that there's a lot of good things about you. And there's also a lot of things that you're actually interested in.
Yes.
And from there, I would say that then just isolate the things that you're interested in, right? By looking at them, putting them maybe in numerical order, in the order that you like them the most to the least. And now you've got a passion list.
Yes.
And with that passion list, you can see, well, can I do this? Is this thing that I'm passionate about, do I have the skill and ability to execute it? If you do, fantastic. Become the best at it. If you don't, learn how to become the best at it.
Right.
And then start searching for a need for that passion in the world, because somebody needs what you can provide.
Absolutely.
And when you do that, the side effect is money in your bank account. That's abundance.
Yeah. Yes.
So you can become abundant based on, finding your passion and finding a need for that passion in the world and then fulfilling that need. Because the key to abundance is to find a need and fill it. It's an energy exchange.
Absolutely. You're speaking exactly what we try to do with our respective communities, because inner space is infinitesimally greater than outer space. I mean, that which is within is out. And so as you go in, there's infinite potential. So to add to the passion list, I think individuals need to ask the question of themselves, what is it within me that's trying to emerge? What am I to midwife? What am I to give birth to? And you're not looking outside to the government. You're not looking outside to any external authority figures. You're listening to your own soul. And eventually your spiritual faculty will become activated, and you can actually hear that inner voice tell you, this is what you are to give birth to. And once you catch that vision, as you said, in your own way, action will follow.
Right.
Because vision without action is a fantasy, but action without vision is chaos.
Wow.
And so when you begin to ask an empowering question, like oftentimes people are saying, why me? What's wrong? Who's to blame? That takes you down a downward spiral. But if you ask, what's trying to emerge? What gift do I have to give? What talent do I need to activate? Now I own my own power. Now I start to walk in that direction. And nothing out there can stop me.
Right.
Because I'm not trying to get power from out there. I'm getting it from here, and I'm trying to gift the world rather than get something from the world. Now, when you look at purpose, you look at the country like Bhutan as an example. They have a happiness quotient at the end of the day. How happy are the people? In the Western worlds, we go to the Dow Jones. What is the stock market doing? And only 10% of people own stock.
Right.
So our political leaders are cheerleaders for the corporation of America, but they're not necessarily cheerleaders for purpose or vision or possibility. I was thinking, this is a side, but I think it's important. When you drive down the street in LA, you see these signs that say, expect delay. Traffic. What if we started curating these signs that said, expect a miracle today? Look within today. Smile.
Right.
There's power in you. I mean, you still have to have the other things there for your safety. But what if we started to use those signs to tell people there's a gift within you? Let's activate it and give it.
That's the solution.
You start to change the consciousness.
That's a huge solution right there. That's huge. I can see that. I can feel it. I can feel it riding down the street and see that. For me, that would spark me.
I mean, years ago, some company used to have think better. I think it was Apple or something. Think differently. I'm not pushing anything. But they used to have these signs in LA, and it showed all these great people who had done beautiful things saying, they thought different.
Gotcha.
It was very inspiring. Then it got covered up by something else.
Right.
We need to take people's minds back.
I think the interruption that we've experienced through the international health emergency we've all just come through was an amazing experience for a lot of people in terms of remembering who they were. Because they'd got into a rut of certain activity. They're in a job that perhaps is okay, is paying the bills, and then that gets interrupted. They're locked down, and they begin to remember, this is what I wanted to do before. And they remember their passions, they remember their creativity. But I find a lot of people come to me for coaching with exactly this question, people of all ages who just feel they've lost their way a bit. And it can be such an empowering experience. I tell people to go and ask people around them, not just their friends, and not just people who like them necessarily, to reflect back to them, what do you think my passions are? What do you think my qualities are? And you could hear a whole load of random stuff.
Yeah.
But if you listen, first of all, you'll be surprised at how well you're being observed. And then from time to time, people will recognize themselves. Oh my goodness, that's true. I am a people person.
Right.
Or whatever the thing might be. I am an encourager. I'm a creator. I'm a change agent. And they recognize that. And then they ask the question, how do I channel that? What do I do with that? Who can I serve with that? And a new angle can open up. And I find if people live gregariously, an angle always opens up. Once people have found what their thing is, I think the universe comes to meet that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
powerful.
I feel I deal with a lot of mental health issues, a lot of people that are in depressed states. We think about how distracted people are with some of the things, or chasing the Joneses, or keeping up with the Joneses, and looking at this fictitious world and trying to be, constantly keep up with the things that they see. I always just, one of the things, the most important things when it comes to low vibrations and depressed states, I always tell people you are the energy that you keep. So, the people that you are around play a huge place in how your mood is, what your energy is like. We talked earlier about, spouses and, making sure most successful, particularly men, that you see that are truly successful, they have a powerhouse of a woman with them to help out with that, and good people around them to help out with that. And not even so much with success, because success is what you make it, but happiness is within. It starts from within, but also it can't grow if you have people around you that's clouding your sunshine. So a lot of the times, a lot of our depressed states come from a position to where we have, these people that's around us that's negative, that aren't forward thinking, that are stationary in thought, in their mobility process. If you want to be successful, if you want to have good energy, you have to be around people that have good energy. Energy is the key of life. And I feel that people who are having a hard time with depression and things of that nature, they need to find their tribe, get around people, get actively involved. That's why with our organization, we do so much. I always tell people we've created a kind of a family space. So with all of our chapters across the country, we're all very intentional on keeping up with each other. We visit each other. We make a family environment, so it don't feel like just work. No, I can call this person as a resource if I'm not feeling a certain type of way or whatnot. I mean, we have to be able to put ourselves in the environment that we want, put ourselves around the people that we see that makes us feel good, and take our mental to different places and spaces, because, an idle mind and people that's just, who has that idle energy, won't help, when the clouds are there. If you look outside, if it's raining, or if it's cloudy outside, if there's no wind to push that cloud, so that the sun can come through, then it's just going to continue to be a cloud over your head. And, you have to be that wind to push those clouds through, so that you can put yourself in a position to be around more positive people, which will enhance your vibrations, and to think better and do better. Because it's all a mindset. Success is a mindset. Being a forward thinker is a mindset. Having progress and progression in your life is all a mindset. It starts here first, and then you apply that, and be around people that's going to help you apply those things, and you'll find that your days are spent less with thinking about the negative things or depressive state. You can't even think about that because you're too active thinking about things that you can do to be better and do better. but you have to be able to create a circle and environment for that.
Yeah.
It's like the saying goes, you are the company that you keep.
That's right.
You know, it's better to be alone than would be with bad company.
Yeah.
You know, so that's absolutely true.
And I think different company finds you when you change your trajectory.
Yeah.
Because the people immediately around you, you may be very lucky and have a couple of people who are going to encourage you, but a lot of people are threatened by you changing.
Totally.
They're familiar with you exactly as you are.
Yeah.
And if you suddenly start operating up here, that's not the Zeke I know.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start operating up here, you start resonating with other people who are on that trajectory. And so on the one hand, you're right, you have to be intentional about the company you keep, but company finds you.
Yeah.
When you chart a new direction, you're on a new vibration, other people will find you because they're going a similar way. They understand how you're thinking. They're excited by your vision. And I think it's a bittersweet thing that you won't keep everyone with you for the whole of the journey, but you will always be making new friends and new connections if you just keep on ascending.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Billy said something earlier about the law of attraction works both ways. And so what we don't want to do is RSVP to a pity party.
Yes.
Because then you're gonna keep bringing that kind of energy to yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's better just to be by yourself and intentionally choose to find your tribe, to be in the higher energy.
Yes.
And then as you said, it comes to you. You look around and you're only dealing with people that are optimistic, uplifting, inspiring, encouraging, etc. So you said it. It's all energy.
It's all energy.
It's all energy.
It's so powerful what Zeke said, man, because I could see it. And I remember growing up, you know, in the hood and seeing things completely differently from everybody, including my own siblings.
Yep.
And knowing that I saw a way out for me, right? And then growing and seeing and making my moves and making my adjustments, like starting a business at the age of 12 that, you know, ended up, I was making more money than my parents, and just seeing the responses and the reactions and people saying, oh, now you're here and, you know, you think you're this and that. And, you know, and then the anger come out because it's like crabs in the bucket. They want to keep you in the bucket. Nobody wants to see you excelling, you know. And I had to go head on battle to continue to claim my birthright, which was my own abundance.
Right.
But I realized when I got to a certain point, I had to begin to let people go.
Yes.
I still love them. I still pray for them. I still wish them the best, but they're not part of my journey.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there, like you was talking about, they're really dragging with them these people. They're trying to get to another place. And how come I can't reach the mountain? I can see the mountain, but I can't get to it. You got all this.
You got to drag.
Weight you're dragging with you. You got to let some of that weight go. And sometimes it even includes family members.
Yeah, it does.
You know, I had to release family members. I had to release friends. But I attracted, like you were talking, Paul, I attracted like a magnet, new friends, new family members, right? And so, but it's just part of the process. And we all got to go on a hero's journey. And everybody who started with you is not going to finish with you.
Right.
Right?
Everybody.
Interesting. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you know, everybody has time and spaces, you know, and during particular times in your journey, people are supposed to be there for certain reasons. And I feel like if we really look at life in that perspective and not so much in the emotional state or, oh man, we're supposed to be, you know, here and there. It's life is about growth, you know, it's about progress. It's about trajectory. It's about being, you know, moving forward. That's what the universe is about. It's about growth.
100.
We just talked about how the world is growing with AI and technology. You know, people are no different. We have to be able to grow to keep up. And, you know, if you have people around you that's not growing with you, then they become a deterrent, and you know it could ultimately stop your growth. And if you know, and I would speak for myself, if my growth, you know, is playing a role in the growth of others because we do so much for the culture and so much for our people, I can never allow anything to stop that growth. So you know, and it's not all about, you know, hating people or, you know, even having a bad relationship, but you have to do what's best for you and your growth, and put people around you who believe, you know, in you and your growth, and you believe in them and their growth, and grow together. But we got to be unapologetic about that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But that is the question. How am I going to grow today? I want to be different today than I was last year, yesterday. that's a vibrational frequency. When I was growing up, we were in a gang-infested area, but I had a really good friend, and we were about something else. We would sit under and look up in the stars and start talking about how we can make the world better at 11, 12 years old.
Wow.
But the interesting thing about it, the gangs didn't bother us. We got a pass. They felt we were a little different.
Yeah.
It was the same neighborhood, but we weren't bothered by that. They just thought we were a little weird, a little different than everybody else, so they didn't bother us. So we curated into our life older people that would share with us knowledge, because that's what we were interested in, rather than getting caught up in the downward spiral of a lot of the violence that was going on in the neighborhood at the time. I can look back at it now and I can see they just gave us a pass.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. I love it. Yeah, it's powerful. We're going to pause for a quick commercial break. So we're going to talk about how to unleash your divine power. So Unleashing Your Divine Power is going to feature myself, Billy Carson, and Mike Rashid. If you haven't heard of Mike Rashid, he's an amazing human being and a great thought leader. Actually, he was on our very first Forbidden Solutions talk that we had here in the studio. So Mike Rashid and I are going to talk about the balance between masculine and feminine energy and how to tap into and unleash your divine power. That's coming up very soon. If you want to know more about it, make sure you go to eventbrite.com and just put in the search box Billy Carson, and that event will pop right up. And it's coming up at the end of this month, just a few short weeks. So make sure you go to eventbrite.com, eventbrite.com, type in Billy Carson in the search box, and all of my workshops will pop right up. All right, so let's talk about the next topic here. The next topic is global health pandemics.
We just
y'all talking about it in the living room earlier, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing about this network is you can say exactly what you want to say.
Yeah.
You don't have to sugarcoat words. If you want to say the word vaccine, we can say it.
Or pseudo-vaccine.
Pseudo-vaccine. You want to talk about getting an injection, you can say the word injection. You don't got to say Jabberwowski. Get the hand signal, right? So you can feel free to openly talk, because this is Forbidden Knowledge TV, where nobody tells us what to do. We say what we want, okay? We talk what's on our mind. We talk what's in our heart. And we can speak it. We don't have to use any code words like on the other platforms. But we're talking about global health pandemics, the emergence of new diseases and the spread of existing ones that pose a constant threat to public health. And I just want to start off with this. I remember a long time ago, things were going so good for me. It was like, man, everything I touched was turning to gold, and I was making more money than I was ever making in my life. This is back long before the internet existed, right? And then all of a sudden, I come up to a point where I decide to put all my eggs into this one basket called real estate. And real estate is a great thing, but not in 2008.
Not in 2000. I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, and I have been good in forecasting. I'm a forecaster. I'm a hell of a forecaster. Like I can see the future. I can see it. I can identify it. I can act on it now and meet that future reality. And it's usually a good outcome for me. But this particular one time, I wasn't on top of my game. And building up to the 2008 collapse, I had put all my eggs in one basket. And I probably had over 400 properties, 430 properties around the United States. Some mixture of land, some that could be developed, some that was undeveloped, that was still like considered farmland at the time, but can be, repurposed as commercial later. And then also pre-construction houses and built houses. That's a combination of all that. It was USA Land and Investments. And I didn't see it. And then the collapse came. And I pretty much almost lost everything I had. It was a complete wipeout, right? I was fortunate I was able to sustain my house that I had. And I had 5 cars. I had to go down to 2. I know some people are like, that don't sound like a big deal. But for us, it was, right? And telling my kids, like, you can't spend money this weekend. You can't go out this weekend. Don't do this. Don't buy that. It was a big hit for them, being used to just doing whatever they wanted to do, right? We're not going on any trips for a little while and things like that. But I recognized something. This helped me. It helped me realize that I looked back prior to that. I said, what happened before this that could have wiped out an economy? And it was the 2000 scare, right? The millennial scare. Remember that?
Yeah.
Everything was going to shut down. Everything was going to be deleted.
When the
and
ball
blah,
dropped.
blah, blah, right?
Yeah.
The world was going to come to an end. YK 2000.
And the stock market crashed and everything.
I
And people
almost
lost a
forgot
lot of
about
money over this millennium bug and all this craziness. And then here comes 2008. And I realized, wow, every a few years, because I went back even before that, I saw another thing happen. And I'm going, wow, they got something going on all the time. So I said to myself, I can never let this happen to me ever again. I can never let this happen to my family ever again. So I set myself up in a position to diversify revenue. People say, man, you do a lot of stuff. Everybody, you're in a million things. Well, yeah. Because of 2008, that's why I'm in a million things. Right. And so I learned how to diversify myself and diversify my energy and to create multiple streams of income because I knew that there was something else coming. Now, in 2019, November, Ray Dalio, the guy that runs the largest hedge fund in the world, he's a multi-billionaire. He runs a crazy, I don't know, $100 and something billion hedge fund. He had bet some crazy number of $1 billion on a put in the stock exchange that the market was going to crash March of 2020. Now he writes this in November of 2019. And I went live about it and I was like, there's something coming. This guy didn't just say stuff like this.
Right.
If he says it, something's coming that we aren't privy to. And so I began making sure that I put all my ducks in a row from then. And I was telling people, put your ducks in a row because March 2020, something's going to happen. What it is, I have no idea.
Right.
Guess what? Well, we know what happened now.
That's right.
The whole world shut down. March of 2020.
March of 2020.
And the stock market crashed and his company made, I don't know, $20-30 billion or some crazy number on that put that he bet the market would crash. So there's advanced foreknowledge of these upcoming events, right? They know that something's coming. I don't know if they know specifically what it is, but the inner circle of that multi-billion-dollar community, they hear about all these things going on. And we're already getting the hints now of these future potential pandemics coming. They hint at it. There's going to be another pandemic of some sort. There's going to be another thing we got to be ready for. They're kind of dropping the seeds, letting us know. And, what is the solution to, being in a situation where when these things come, we're prepared? From my perspective, the solution is we can't particularly stop what their plans are at this moment because they're so vast and they're made decades in advance.
I was getting ready to say,
they're
30 years in advance.
Yeah, they're so far.
Right.
But what we can do is we can prepare ourselves and our families.
Right.
And so for me, I realized I needed to get on the grind and I needed to create diversified income. I need to have multiple streams. I need to be prepared with different ways and different types of assets, even commodities, so that when the next big thing comes, I'm ready. And I was ready for this whole COVID thing. I was more than ready, actually.
Right.
And I made more money during COVID than I ever made in my life.
Right.
When other people were crashing completely.
Right.
And there's another one coming, right? This is now 2024. By 2026, 28, sometime before 2030, there's going to be another thing, whatever that thing is. For my solution is focus on becoming prepared now. Not just taking money and putting it in the bank because that's useless, right? Because you're putting money in the bank.
You're paying them.
You're paying them. They're taking your money and investing it while you sleep.
Right.
They sweep it out of your account and sweep it back in, and then they don't give you any of the profits.
Right.
They're making money all day and all night with your money.
Right.
So you put your money in the bank, it's a waste of time. But learning how to diversify, save some, because you have to have some savings, invest some. And also for people who are making a significant amount of money, never put more than $250,000 in a bank account. You never put more than $250 in a bank account because the insurance, the federal insurance is only $250,000.
Right.
And banks are collapsing. Some of those people lost millions of dollars in those collapsed banks because they only had the $250,000 FDIC insurance, which is the max you can get right now. I remember when it used to be $80,000, right? Then it went to 90, now it's $250,000 in America. I don't know what it is in Europe or Australia. But the thing is, if you put $250,000 in multiple accounts in the same bank, it still counts towards the one total amount for that one bank. So if the bank collapses, it's still only $250,000. Even if you have different banks, you got to go to different banks.
Yeah.
You have to diversify your funds in different banks and different institutions. Some in brokerages, some in banks, some in credit unions. You got to spread it all out, and then, of course, some in your safe, and some in other in investments, some in stocks, some in crypto, whatever it is. But you have to diversify everything. The second thing is you need to be able to understand that you need to have a person that you can trust that has access. If you have a family or a legacy that has access to this information.
Right.
I know people that unfortunately passed away during the pandemic that didn't give their wife the code to the crypto account, the apps. One guy had $1 million in Bitcoin. she can't get access to none of it. Like it's just zero for her because she can't even log in. There's no way to get that money out of it. And so you have to have some type of will, testament, or trust, something to leave behind for your legacy in case the next thing that comes takes you out, because it's a potential possibility that what they have next might eliminate you.
Right.
But what do you leave behind for as far as a legacy for your family? You need to have something around. We saw when the actor from Black Panther, what's his name?
Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman died, right? I think he didn't have a will or a testament. And his family had to fight over the scraps. And I think it was about $3 million left. And the government took $1 million something out of that and gave them and made it split up the rest between the rest of the family, because he had no will, he had no test, he had no trust, he had nothing. And so we got to do a better job of setting up our families, our future generations. We can't sit around just thinking everybody will just fend for themselves. It's up to us to stop. That's a generational curse that's happened too many times. Yeah. Set up a will or set up a trust or both. Put people down that you have designated to receive funds. Give access. Make sure somebody has access to the logins to specific accounts in case something does happen. And be prepared to diversify your income, but passive revenue streams that come in, or businesses that, so if one crashes, the other one can still provide you with something. And always set yourself up for your life, your level of lifestyle, your level of living, to where one of them can cover everything you have. Because if you can't, what's going to happen is your lifestyle is going to take a hit. Like my previous lifestyle, I had to take a hit. I had to go backwards.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to ever do that again.
Right.
So if one thing goes down, I can still sustain my existing lifestyle. Right. If I have just from one stream, I got 10 streams. If one stream stays open out of 10, I can still maintain my lifestyle.
Right.
You know, and then also I would say one last thing is you want to have at least 6 months minimum of your revenue available to pay all your bills and sustain your current existing lifestyle in some way, shape, form, or fashion, whether it's some of it's in crypto, some of it's in shares, stock, some mixed up around. You want to diversify it, but that you can pull it if you need to get access to take care of your everyday living expenses for at least 6 months, just in case.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not going to repeat anything you said. You covered everything. One thing you didn't cover was the whole life insurance.
Right.
That builds equity.
Yes,
you can also borrow against the equity and have enough to take care of your family. Yeah. You covered that, and you covered that very well in terms of your teaching, in terms of the generational legacy that we must begin to curate for our people. They don't even think like that.
Right.
You know, the four of us may be thinking like that, but you're putting it out for a lot of people, and I appreciate that. The other thing I would add about the pandemic aspect of life is, you know, our immune system can basically handle pretty much anything that comes down the pike if we're healthy, if we're properly exercising, if we're properly eating, if we're properly hydrating, if we're properly cleansing the body temple. Then when these particular strains, because coronavirus has been mutating for thousands of years, that's what it does. I mean, the news would tell us, oh, it's migrated, it's mutated again.
It's adapted.
That's what it does. It wants to survive. So that's not new news. And our immune system has always handled the issue if, in fact, we're taking care of ourselves.
Yes.
But if you're eating fast foods all the time, you're not exercising, you're not hydrating, then your immune system is compromised. Then the next thing that comes, you can't handle it.
Right.
And so then what happens? They sell you something. They give you a jab. They give you some pharmaceutical drug that has a bunch of side effects. So they're going to sell you something 5 years from now based on the side effects that you're getting from the pharmaceutical drugs. So take care of yourself. You know, and that has to become a lifestyle until it becomes a way of living. You know, so there's the legacy financial piece, and then there's the legacy biological. We have to take care of ourselves. And you were mentioning the word depression earlier. I think this is very important. My friend, you may know Sean Stevenson. He has the #1 health.
Oh, yeah.
You know Sean. #1 health and wellness podcast in America. And he recently talked about a peer-reviewed study that dealt with depression. And it showed that if a person exercises and find a way to contribute to society, to give, even if you're working with the organizations such as yourself, it produces enough tonic chemicals that the amount of depression goes down more than 40%
Wow.
than what a pharmaceutical company can give you.
Wow.
Just exercising and doing some good for somebody eliminates depression more than 40% of what a pharmaceutical drug can do.
Wow.
So if you just ask the question, how can I serve today? And exercise, you eliminate a major component of depression. So, when this pandemic starts to happen, we have to think differently. We have to eat differently. We have to take care of our legacy.
Yeah.
We have to actually empower ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not victims.
Let me echo those three things. You have to help me here. I might have a senior moment in the middle of this. I want to remember them all.
No senior moment.
First, thank you. I received that. First of all, in Australia, a lot of people have migrated because of the pandemic into Queensland, where I now live. And it's about 8,000 people a month.
That's amazing.
Moving from Victoria, New South Wales into Queensland. On a US scale, that would be about 104,000 people every month.
Wow.
And a big motivator for those people was to have more land. Not necessarily a bigger house, but more land that can sustain more food and, if necessary, more people. And they wanted to have something that they could bequeath to their kids in the future. If the world suddenly changes shape, they've got more options if they've got more land. So I'm echoing this be prepared kind of vision. And then what you were saying, Michael, I think is wonderful, because I think we saw through the pandemic that fear doesn't make good decisions.
No.
Whether you're an individual or a government, we saw governments make terrible decisions because they were motivated by fear. And I think we have to get on the front foot, and we need to see ourselves differently. We've had, 2 or 3 years of messaging, constant messaging saying, you are vulnerable. You are weak. You are about to become ill any moment. And that's been the message.
With music behind it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So we have to reject that. That is not true. A human body is a healing organism.
Yes.
It's actually a community of healing organisms. That's what it is. It handles all sorts of stresses and toxins from day to day. And you have to start seeing yourself that way. And then it comes to what you were saying, Michael, about supporting that body.
Yes.
How do I support this body so that all its natural healing mechanisms are absolutely thriving? And the third one, and I have remembered all three, this sense of purpose is so vital. And it can be a huge purpose like yours, Zeke, where I love how you speak about the cities that you have. Your vision is that large. But I want to scale this right down to an old lady that I knew years ago who reached the age of 80 and she started getting very frail, and she was walking on 2 sticks. And then her brother got ill and moved in with her. And we all thought, oh my goodness, she's just going to topple over completely now. She can't look after another person. 3 months later, walking with no sticks.
Wow.
She had to pull herself together because she's looking after somebody else. She lived to 104 years old.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be a huge mission. Her mission was really just her brother, looking after her brother, and it redefined her life. That's how powerful having a reason to get out of bed is.
Yes.
And it impacts our health and how we live and who we are.
Yes.
Incredible.
I was reading an article about the people who live in disenchantment over 100. And one thing they had in common is every day they wake up with a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Who are they going to help? Their
Yes.
family needs them. Somebody needs them, and they are able to muster up the energy to get up again because there was a larger purpose than their little self.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, once again, we were talking out there previously, just about the social aspect of the pandemic. We talked about the finance side, we talked about the health side, but socially, we don't talk about, the years that was knocked off because we weren't able to interact because we didn't have a plan of interaction. We put ourselves in a position to where, once again, we were completely playing defense. Like, whatever you say, I'm going to do. You go in your house, be by yourself, don't do this, don't breathe. They basically, you know, everywhere you go, you got to have a mask on. It was just, it just got to a point to where I felt like we were playing a big, huge game of Simon Says. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you know, in your
Simon
head,
was an idiot.
And Simon was an idiot. You know, in your head that, okay, if I'm going out to eat and they saying that we're supposed to have masks on, and if I gotta go have a mask to walk in your restaurant, but I can take the mask off when I get to my table.
When you sit down.
Yeah, when you sit down.
After you sit down.
You know, it really put us in you know, I felt like it was just this huge test. Yeah. Be honest with you. You know, how vulnerable and how obedient you know, will people be? You know, I feel like that was more the bigger picture with the pandemic than anything. I feel it's like, how will people react, you know, socially? I feel like it could be a social experiment, you know, like literally
say it.
How will people react to something like this, and how much control can we have over the world? Not just, we talking about not just the United States or one other place. This was global. So there's a lot of hands in this, you know, and still there's no accountability from where the source came from. Nobody wants to talk about, you know, they said it came from some factory in China, whatever the case may be. Who's accountable for this? Like, where's the accountability? Where's the RICO charges? And where who's going to jail? You know, we want to talk about throwing all these presidents and stuff in jail. But I mean, who's accountable for, you know, the millions of lives that was lost? Who mess up was this if that was the case? Because that's what, you know, that's what they told us. But I would just say, you know, it just showed how you know, how less of free thinkers, you know, the entire world is, because it was literally a game of Simon Said. And then also, you know, with children, we talked about that too. You know, I have a 6-year-old son, and during that time, you know, during his he'll probably be preschool around that time. He didn't go to preschool. He went straight to kindergarten because, you know, I didn't want, you know, he could have went, but now by the time you in there, he had a mask on, and you know, I didn't want to teach him that this is normal. Like the whole new norm thing, how they tried to, we gotta listen to words, you know, they'll put those type of things out, and then people will bite off those things, and then it becomes reality for people. But in reality, we have to be able to be prepared for ourselves. You mentioned a great point. You know, the body is a healing. The body heals. You know, so, and then to go to your point, health. You know, the health, you know, helps the body heal. So, and then if we have those type of things in place, and then financially we have a good understanding, and then socially we have a plan so that things don't get weird, and we have an understanding of how to move in case, you know, not in case, but when something do happen, because we can bank on something that's going to happen. But just once again, being an organizer for a living, I'm always thinking, how do we organize, you know, problems and turn them into real life solutions? And, you know, ways that we do that is once again being on offense. So figuring out, if we seen what happened before, we have to study this from all angles. You know, we have to be the ones to do that, because if we don't study these things and dissect these things and figure out, okay, what we did wrong, what we did right, you know, we're going to be in the predicament where it's going to be the exact same thing. And then this time, no one will be to blame but us.
On your point, 2 points. One, I've said over the years that authentic community grants you immunity from the lower frequencies of life.
Absolutely.
So the whole social thing that you were talking about, you know, you have to have some kind of community. And if it's a high community, we got forbidden knowledge, you got agape, you know, whatever, it grants you immunity from those lower frequencies of life. And the other thing that you mentioned in terms of things that were being said, we were being told to stay inside. But if you get sunlight and you get vitamin D, that knocks out the flu. That helps your body heal. So people were staying inside when they need to be in their backyard with their feet on the ground, on the grass,
Yeah.
opening themselves up to the sunlight
Yeah.
in order for the body to produce tonic chemicals
Yeah.
to balance the immune system so that you can deal with some of these issues.
Yeah.
So we were getting misinformation, whether it was on purpose or whether you just were ignorant. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I went outside.
I went outside.
I was outside every day.
Yeah. Had to.
You can't hide from an invisible illness, but you can move towards health.
Right.
And we didn't have messaging about building health. We still don't have messaging.
Right. We
about
did not.
building health.
No.
But that would seem the obvious thing to do now.
Yeah.
How do we build health? How do we make sure that we're as strong as we can possibly be for anything else that should turn up in the environment?
Right.
I was invited to be on a conference call. We were all medical doctors. I was the only one. Me and one other guy was the only one that weren't medical doctors. They had Dr. Michael, all these doctors went around the room. And I'm saying, I think I'm on the wrong call here. But they wanted me on the call because all of these doctors were doctors that had done intensive research into vitamin D. And they were talking about the fact that if your body has enough vitamin D, there's a less chance of you getting cancer, there's a less chance of you dying from influenza, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, well, why do you want me on this call? They said, because you have a community and we want you to tell your congregation to make sure that you're getting organic vitamin D, that you're going outside. And this, maybe I don't know if this is true, I might as well say it. You know, one of the secretaries of Dr. Fauci was on this call.
Wow.
So one of the doctors was saying to her, please tell your boss that when he's going to make these announcements about the jab, to tell the world about taking vitamin D and organic vitamin C on a regular basis as well.
Yeah.
We're not saying you not to say what you want to do about the vaccine,
Yeah.
but at least add the vitamin D and the
Give an
vitamin
option.
C. You know, add that.
Yeah.
Never happened.
Yeah.
As you just said,
Yeah.
there was no messaging about how to be healthy.
Well, for some reason, we've all been terrorized about the sun for some years. Certainly this has happened in Australia, where people have been discouraged from going out in the sun, or if they do, to make sure they're slathered in virtual
goodness.
concrete.
You're going to get skin cancer or something like that.
So people have been made to be afraid of the source of life. We would be lost without the sun. We're lost without vitamin D, and we need to get that balance right. I think
Yes.
people know
You got to get the balance.
instinctively. I feel better when I've had some daylight on me, but we need to, I think, look after one another. Make sure that our kids are getting outside enough, that our grown-ups, that our elders are getting out.
Yes.
Because we know this. We've just got to apply it.
Yeah.
Well, some of the things that hurt is the creams they put on your body. You put on your body
Those are the worst.
actually have toxic chemicals that if the sun bakes it into your skin, it becomes a condition for cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's
Well,
yeah.
when we sent our little ones to school, to the lower years, to kindy, as it's called in Australia, they're all required to slip a hat on and then slather,
Oh my goodness.
And it may not be organic.
factor 30 on.
Yeah.
We didn't do that because my wife Ruth makes her own skin creams,
Good.
and we were very strict with the school.
Yeah.
We're not putting anything on that you have at school. This is what our family needs.
Mhm.
We're a brown skin family,
Mhm.
and we need more sunshine
That's right.
than people with lighter skin. And so this is
a
the
fact.
cream we use. And the schools work with that. Well, of course they would. I mean, they wouldn't counter it. But I think we have to be very proactive
Yes.
as individuals, as families, as parents, to make sure that we're using the knowledge we have about what's healthy and what's not.
Yeah.
Let me say one other thing about that. My friend Bruce Lipton talks about this thing. It might be in his book. He talked about the fact that, we're surrounded by this cosmic energy and that we receive 20% of our energy from the food we take. But the rest of the energy is coming straight from the field.
Yes.
It goes through the melanin.
Yes.
And the melanin transmutes the energy, transmutes the field into energy.
Yes.
So obviously we should eat well,
Yeah.
but you have to get the field, the energetic that's coming from the sun in you, and it goes through the melanin and produces the energy.
Yeah. That's
Yes.
a science fact.
That's a fact.
And what else, I realized through, working with Elizabeth and learning about red light therapy, I learned from one of the inventors of the machine that the more melanin you have in your skin, the darker, in other words, the darker you are, the more vitamin D you need, the more direct sunlight you need over extended periods of time
Right.
Yes.
to gain the same amount of vitamin D as a person with lighter skin or less melanin.
Right.
Everyone has melanin in their skin.
Yes.
Unless you're
Albino.
albino, right? But it's an important thing. And a lot of people in the Black communities, you know, like I say, going in the house and staying in the house when we are the ones who need the sun the most.
Yeah.
You know, I showed you guys some photos of me earlier from a previous time when I was on this diet that had really injured me, right? It wasn't the right diet for my body type. And you saw how emaciated I looked when I was so sick. You weren't there yet, right, Zeke? But one of the things that happened when I went to get diagnosed for how ill I was I was so vitamin D deficient. I was osteoporosis, borderline osteoporosis. And they gave me all these vitamin Ds that I had to take and everything to get my vitamin D all the way back up. But I had to take 2 to 3 times more than the average person.
Right.
And so vitamin D, we live here in the Sunshine State and everybody, you know, was forced to go inside. Luckily, we had a crazy governor who said, y'all, after 1 month, said, y'all go outside, man. But,
listen, a broken clock works twice a day.
Yeah, right. That's one of the only things I can say to this guy, he got that part right. But yeah, it's so important, man, that we, like you're saying, Zeke, some kind of way when this next one comes, like how do we stay in communication with each other and say, we're going to draw a line in the sand. We're not going to play Simon Says this time.
Yeah.
You know, that needs to be maybe starting the coordination for that next effort for the next one. We need to start that like right now.
Yeah, and we need to utilize, you know, realistic data that, you know, is out there from the pandemic that just happened.
Right.
You know, you got a lot of people now apologizing. I mean, like I was one of the people, I'm said I didn't get the jab, you know what I mean? And I wasn't going to let nobody force me to get it. I'm a free man. So, you know, nobody's going to tell me that I have to do something that I feel is not comfortable to my body. And I remember, you know, during this time, you know, we were like germ people, like people like didn't want to be around you. You know, they talked about you. You know, you weren't the way that they made people feel who did not want to get shots was just it was incredible. And it furthered my thinking of like, I know I'm doing the right thing at this point. But you know, really because now you have people that's literally coming out and apologizing. And some people like, well, you know, some people really didn't have to, you know, get the jab or decide whether you have a job or not. Because, you know, come on, man.
And people have won those battles.
Too.
It's
people that's been working certain jobs that I known for years, you know, 10, 15 years. And because they didn't want to get the shot, you know, they got fired or they let people go. And it's just like when you see that if you let the system have that much control over you and your life and your well-being, you know, and your train of thought, this should be the biggest lesson in that, you know, you need to be able to think for yourself and make the best decision, you know, whether you got the shot and said the best decision for me and my family without anybody telling me is to protect my family by getting this shot. I'm fine with that, but don't get it just because somebody said to get it. And then they come out a couple of years later saying that, well, you know, you guys probably really didn't need to, you know, get it and this, that, and the third. So, you know, we got to be forward thinkers and really look at the data that, you know, is out there from the first pandemic and see, you know, some of the things that went, you know, wrong on their end, wrong on our end. And then build from that, organize around that data so that we are more prepared when this happens again.
He's using the word thinking. And many people don't think. It's called mentation. They just repeat the same thoughts over and over and over again. And then they drop fear in there. And as you said earlier, fear leads to bad choices. And so we're inviting people to learn how to think.
That's right.
And real thinking is inspiration directly from the source. But if they're looking to an external authority figure to tell them what to do, they're not thinking. You know, people ask me about it, you know, as a head of a community. And I said, you have to listen to your soul. Don't listen to a president. He's not a doctor. Don't listen to Bill Gates. He's not a doctor. Don't listen to Fauci. Fauci has business interests in the vaccine.
Absolutely.
You know, you have to listen to your own soul and make your decision from there. You know, so people would ask me about it. I say, no. Let me ask you, these are the questions to ask. 1, how do you stay healthy? 2, how do you stay in love with people that disagree with you? Don't just cut people out because we disagree.
Right.
We disagree. We don't have to hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3, do you have COVID?
Yeah.
Not that you get the vaccine, because as you said, it's already shown that it doesn't stop. Doesn't stop COVID. It doesn't stop the transmission. So that's not the question.
Right.
How do you stay healthy? How do you stay in love with people that you're in disagreement with? And do you have COVID?
Right.
Those are the questions.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Michael, you said about people learning to listen to their soul.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit hopeful that we won't fall into the same Simon Says scenario next time, because very often people learn to listen to their soul by not doing it. And then when something transpires, they'll say, I knew it.
Yeah.
I should have done that.
They didn't
I
listen
had that
to the
hunch.
first
I
mind.
didn't act on it. And so we, bit by bit, realize we have to listen to our gut. We have to listen to our hunches. And all the people who are now being told, actually, those jabs you had give you zero protection. I think that's a moment where people say, I knew it, and I should have acted on what I felt in my gut. I think there will be more people willing not to play the Simon Says next time around.
And especially when you have, now they're, correlating a lot of those shots with a lot of these new heart conditions.
Myocarditis.
Yes,
sure.
yes.
And
And then you got these kids, falling out all over, dying, and people just having real heart problems now. That wasn't there before the shot. I know people, that are having issues now that they've never had until this shot. So they didn't even think about the long-term effect of these things or anything before they just went out and said, do this and mandate it.
Right.
I think they probably made a calculation. Did they want to risk mass deaths through COVID, or were they willing to live with a whole load of adverse reactions? And I think they just made a mathematical decision of saying, we'll go with the adverse reactions, because they also made a decision in Australia, I can tell you, not to track the adverse reactions.
That's crazy.
They did that
Not
around the
to
world.
allow them to be reported.
Yeah.
The thing about it is when a pharmaceutical company releases any kind of drug, the side effects generally don't show up for 2 to 5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
But they already know what those side effects are going to be, and they already have another drug ready for those side effects. So a lot of it is a business decision.
Business.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to save, I'm going to serve the population.
Right.
It's this is a business decision, you see.
And what we've seen with
makes
this whole
sense.
pandemic, we've seen the system that they put in place where they create the problem, they wait for the reaction. The reaction is based on fear because they pump the fear.
Yeah.
Then they provide the solution.
Right.
So that's the system that they put in place to make trillions and trillions of dollars, while at the expense of our lives,
Creating
nothing to them.
creating the crisis and then profiting from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
And then here's one other thing. It doesn't matter whether you're vaccinated or not, but here's the deal. The taxpayers paid for the vaccine, but we didn't make the money.
Right.
Yeah.
That means I give you some money. I fund you to develop something, and you take 100% of the profit.
100%.
So the taxpayers funded the development. Suppose this is what it was told by our government.
Yep.
And then the pharmaceutical companies took all the money except for the lobbyists funneling it to senators and congressmen to pass laws saying that we had to do X, Y, and Z. That's a bad business decision.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So if somebody is supposed to be covering my back, we're supposed to make that money.
Yeah.
United States is in a debt.
Yeah.
All that money from that vaccine
Yeah.
could have paid off the debt of the United States.
Literally.
So whether you're for or against vaccine doesn't matter. It was a bad business decision.
Definitely bad business. Yeah.
And I think we should come back to an earlier point. Whether you're recovering from COVID, or you're recovering from the vaccine, or recovering from being defamed, our bodies are healing organisms. And
Yes.
we've had so many toxins thrown at us through the ages. And I think we need to recover our sense of confidence a bit. What our bodies are capable of, how much we value them, how much we're going to support them.
Yeah.
And if we're not going to get messaging from the government about building health, well, never mind. We can learn that. We can teach each other
Yeah,
That's why
That's
we're
right.
here.
Yeah.
That's the body. The body can heal anything because if you create the condition for health, health will emerge. It's a part of the possibility within us.
Yes.
We have innate happiness, innate joy, innate wellness. That's been given to us before we even took the incarnation, because as Billy reminded us earlier, we all were shot from the eternal as individual expressions of the one, but we have to create the condition for its emergence.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you look at the history of, I guess you want to call it healthcare, right? Prior to the vaccine, any vaccine, what did they use? They used colloidal silver. Matter of fact, most hospitals still carry colloidal silver in the hospital. And during the pandemic, on this same network, Forbidden Knowledge TV, during the actual pandemic, I interviewed a critical care nurse about the pandemic. And my question to her was, you're on the front lines every day dealing with COVID patients at an outrageous limit. I said, what do you and the other nurses do and the doctors do to avoid getting sick so you can keep helping people? And she said, oh, we just take colloidal silver.
Right. But that was
the
never
answer.
announced from the powers that be.
No, that wasn't the
Colloidal
message.
silver, vitamin D, vitamin C.
Why didn't they tell us that?
Yeah.
If you want colloidal silver, we have it on forbiddenknowledge.com. You can get that and monoatomic gold, by the way. Been taking it for decades. It's a great, great thing. When nanoparticles of colloidal silver meet up with bacteria or viruses, it literally makes them explode. It destroys them on contact. And so
I take it.
it's a natural.
Now I just
it's a
got some of
natural-
your gold.
Thank you. Yeah, got some of the gold. So, and that means also we get a chance to make another quick commercial break for the God Power event. So we have God Power Part 1, Blueprint for God Power Part 1, which happened, I don't know, 7 or 8 months ago. But now we have the Blueprint for God Power Part 2, taught by Dr. B. Sirius and myself, Billy Carson. It's an amazing, amazing 10-hour class that you can't get anywhere except for on Forbidden Knowledge TV. But you have to register. And the only way to do that is you have to go to eventbrite.com because it is a paid event. So you have to go to eventbrite.com, search for Billy Carson, and go to the Blueprint for God Power Part 2.
Would you like a different destination? Are you ready to be the captain of the ship? We're going to challenge people.
So when you can combine spiritual concepts with financial literacy, then you really tap into your God power. We are navigating through multiple matrices.
Once you do this workshop, it's going to take everything in your being to not become the person that you came to be.
All right. And we're going to go back over to Michael Beckwith, who has one more thing to talk about with health with regards to the previous topic.
Oftentimes people talk about individuals have a predisposition to a particular disease based upon their hereditary patterns, what's in their DNA, chromosome, etc. Become aware that your predisposition is not your destiny. That those predispositions have to be activated. They have to be activated at some level. So if you have the condition of worrying, complaining, being in fear, etc., and bad diet, then you can activate the predisposition. But if in fact you're living a life of optimism, peace, generosity, kindness, you're having a healthy way of living, then you're not going to activate those predispositions. You know, just because you have a predisposition, that's not your destiny. You get to choose your destiny by how you think, how you talk, how you eat, and how you act in this world. You have the power.
That's right.
Yeah.
So real. So real. All right. Moving on to the next topic, inequality. Big topic. I'm a roll right with Zeke on this one. He's a house expert.
He's a sacred activist
Oh,
that's
man.
working every single day, not just on
that.
holidays.
I like that. I like that. Sacred activist.
Yeah.
That's a powerful name.
Yeah, that's what we call people like him.
Wow.
That's what we try to produce, sacred activism,
Yeah.
because you're tuned into the one
Man.
and then you act.
Yeah,
Man, that's
right.
powerful.
That's
I
right.
like that. I like that, man. I'm gonna buy you something with that phrase on it.
Right.
Yeah, but we're talking about inequality, disparities in wealth, education, and opportunities that persist within our communities and even throughout countries. From your perspective now, because you're like on the front lines a lot, like what do you think we can do to fix, or what would be some solutions to these kind of inequality issues and problems economically and everything else that we're finding in our communities?
Well, first, I just would like to say that, by design, a lot of these things were placed in our community. Like we've been through a heck of a 500-year journey, and just like if people were playing the game of Monopoly, constantly running around, and you're not moving at all, and wealth is being built on the back.
We have the Entrepreneur Masterclass coming up. That's coming up very soon in the beginning of November with Dame Dash. That's music mogul and entrepreneur mogul Dame Dash, who actually won the first annual Forbidden Conscious Award for Entrepreneur of the Year. So you don't want to miss that. All right. So that's going to be at the beginning of November, and it's going to be an amazing entrepreneur workshop. And what's special about this workshop, we're going to handpick specific people who bought tickets and have them come sit down directly in front of us and speak to us about their business idea. So go to eventbrite.com. Again, eventbrite.com, and search for Billy Carson, and all the workshops will pop up. And make sure you register for the Entrepreneur Masterclass taught by Dame Dash and Billy Carson coming up at the beginning of November. You don't want to miss it. If you've ever wanted to build a business, start a business, or build on what you already have, you want to know the secrets to building a business in a way that you've never been taught before.
Good job.
You're not going to get this as an MBA. You're not going to get this in business school. You're only going to get this on Forbidden Knowledge TV. So make sure you go to eventbrite.com and register ASAP. Entrepreneur Masterclass. I want to see you there. All right. So Zeke, you had a great thought. Let's go back to it. We're talking about, you said, we've been, 500 years ago, things were put in place to put our communities in the situation they are now.
Yeah. Even when we talk about equality, the whole conversation, it's hard for me to even you can't say equality in all humans, especially for, Black people, particularly when we talk about here in America and the things that, we've been previewed to in the past, the lack of wealth that was able to be applied. I always tell people, we talk about generations, they consider a generation every 30 years or so. So just think of all the generational wealth that was built, over these 400 years. And we just start to be able to even have skin in the game, when the Civil Rights Act passed, and, back in the 60s, and, we only 2 or 3 generations in of even having opportunity to even talk about, wealth building and, putting ourselves in a position of where, we're able to be more than just workers. Our people we were never brought here to be in an equal state. We were brought here to be workers and builders and, work for free. This country was built on the back of free labor.
Absolutely.
And that's just the fact. So even when we talk about things like reparations, and when we get in those conversations for people to say that nothing is owed, I always think that's a wild thing to say when everything was stole. So, for us, equality and things of that nature, we understand the things that happened in the past. So what we really need to do now that we have this understanding, because I feel like there's 2 sides of the coin with this. I feel like sometimes we can look too much in the past and hold our head down and saying, okay, well, we were treated like this. This is what it is, and yada yada. Opposed to, we do a lot of the system, the government, and rightfully so. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that, but at this time, we really need to put a lot of that focus in on ourselves. We really need to look, in our own communities and see, okay, well, understanding all of the cards that were stacked against us. How do we utilize technology? How do we utilize resources? How do we utilize, our wits, and just being able to be here? Because just think about a group of people that was beat, killed, fed the worst food ever. I mean, we talk about soul food and a lot of these things. We only got the leftovers and the bad quality stuff. So even now when we talk about food, it's like, we talk about chitlins and stuff like that. We had to eat the worst part of the pit. That was the only thing, or starve.
Yep.
And, you know, we're not even supposed to be here. Like, how are we here after everything that was stacked against us?
Yeah.
You know, we're still here. We're still pushing. We're still thriving. But from that, we can't, our problem is that equality thing. We can't equate what other races have. It's not even a comparison.
Right.
You know, generations upon generations of wealth building, and we're here. There's no equality. This country was never, you know, built to be an equal place for our people. Now we've been able to turn that into, you know, a space to where we are now in position to be whatever it is that we want to be and grow how we want to grow and go as far as we need to go. But we have to start looking within ourselves. It starts there. It starts in our own community. It starts in our household. It starts in us being able to take elevation serious. You know, it's been too many people that have died and fought for us to have progress, for, you know, the culture to be in a state of stillness right now.
Right.
And what I mean by stillness is we're not taking opportunities that's in front of us and capitalizing on opportunities because we're thinking that we've made it to this grand space. You know, with these small coins, you know, we look at $1 million. Oh, $1 million. This is billions of dollars.
What it used to be.
You know, yes, it's so much, you know, that's going on right now, and where we can really be tapping in and utilizing, you know, opportunity. But equality has never been a thing to where I feel could be it could even be an equal conversation, because it's just not there. But what we can do is put ourselves in position, right? So we can utilize community building. So that's why we focus on a lot of the things that we focus on, community building. You know, we have to be able to put ourselves in a predicament to where, okay, let's go back to the basics. How can we've seen it happen before, even when we were going through things. We seen neighborhoods and communities like Black Wall Street, you know, and Black Bottom in Detroit, and, you know, all over the country, there were places and spaces where, you know, Black people found wealth. They found, you know, community and built community from supporting each other. That's how it happened before. We have to circle back on that, supporting each other and being able to understand, like, you know, just because now everything is supposed to be inclusive, that's still not the recipe for success for us. We still have to be a bit more tapped in with each other, because nobody can, I don't care, you know, what nationality you are, nobody can relate to what we've been through on that level, and consistently, you know, go through on that level. So for us, it's just being able to understand where we've been, you know, where we are going, or where we at now, and where we are going in the future, but really looking within ourselves. It could start with accountability, as we talked about yesterday on that brief, you know, podcast. You know, self-accountability is first, holding yourself accountable, and then holding yourself accountable for the people that you're around. You know, forward thinkers. We talked about that. And then, you know, I always tell people the best people in the world is 1 and 2. You know, I'm gonna hold myself accountable, and I'm gonna hold the people around me accountable, almost the me and mine complex. But we have to go broader than that. So that's why the third one is, you know, community accountability. We have to hold the community accountable. We have to be accountable for where we live. We have to hold people accountable for where we live, to live by a standard, you know, and take pride in their neighborhoods, and take pride in where they live and where they're raising their children. You know, that has to happen. So, you know, for us, it's just putting ourselves in a position of where we understand that we have everything that we need right now to level up our culture, but we have to look within ourselves in order to do that.
So deep. Yeah. You know, what you're talking about is, you know, developing a different form of syndrome. So most Black people, or people of color, or anybody has been oppressed, they develop something called PTSD. And that PTSD, along with epigenetic memories, which Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about a lot, So those are past ancestral memories that are genetically passed down through the RNA, mostly the traumas. And on top of that, then you add the mindset of the teachings and the programming. You have this PTSD, right? That a lot of the people in our communities live under. And this programming code is passed down from generation to generation in a low frequency, low vibration. That's why when you go to an area that's not as nice as as a high scale or upscale area, you'll see trash on the ground, people mistreating what they do own, the little bit that they do have, they mistreated, they don't care. But that's a mindset that's kind of almost programmed in through genetics and through traumas, and also then handed down teachings. But one thing that I learned about is something called PTG, a new type of syndrome that exists. And I was told this by the #1 psychiatrist in the world, Dr. Daniel Amen, when I went there for a SPECT scan. And he said that some people develop PTSD, but he told me I developed PTG, post-traumatic growth syndrome. And what you're talking about is we got to teach people how to develop PTG.
That's right.
It's time to get the post-traumatic growth syndrome going right now.
Thank you.
And not the PTSD, because we all have the ability to see what happened, realize what happened in the past and what's happened to us recently. But then now, how do we grow from this?
Yes.
Is the question. How do we figure out we're here, but now there are some opportunities for us now, more than ever. How do we take advantage of those to put ourselves here where we really want to be? And it's about, like you say, building community, linking up with like-minded individuals, becoming a magnet and attracting toward you, right, what you need into your life, and also having conscious thoughts and goals and putting the action behind those conscious thoughts and those goals so that you can get an actual positive outcome, and you can actually help to shape your own reality tunnel. And then you teach that generations and generations ahead. And all of a sudden you got 3, 4, 5 generations thinking this new way now,
Right.
This new type of reprogramming code where we've unprogrammed the negative thoughts, or I think Dr. Daniel Amen calls them ants, automatic negative thoughts, ants. And we get them into these positive thoughts. And then we push down the PTG through our DNA and our genetics, and then all of a sudden we have a whole new world. But we got to start teaching, like you say right now, getting the people, which would be the parents. We got to teach them how to reprogram themselves.
Right.
It's reprogramming the mind and reprogramming the way we see, even doing business with each other.
Yes.
It's always like, you see this business and you see this business. This business is not black owned. This business is black owned. But in some way, the programming code is so strong.
Yes.
A lot of the times we feel if we go to this business, it's going to give us a better product than this business.
Right.
So we don't support this business, even though the black community, spends the most money economically
on everything.
on everything. We buy everything, but we don't support each other. So that's huge what you're talking about, Z, because you're talking about understanding how to help build community. And it has nothing to do with being racist or being against any other culture. It has to do with understanding that we got to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and get back on track again. And the only way to do that is to support one another.
Right.
Literally.
And I feel, one of the things that, has becoming to be a hindrance too as well during this time is that the focus is so much on money. We seen what happened during COVID, right? People were able to get these checks and, money was flowing around. And people think that we can buy our way out of poverty. We can buy you can't buy yourself out of a poor mindset.
No.
That's it.
So, it's more about how we think, how we move, and how we organize as people. And then execute that in a way to where we passing that down to kids now. So opposed to reiterating things to grown folks and who already know the things that we need to do and wasting, precious years on just talking. We have to utilize that and program because life is all about programming.
Yes.
Everything that is of anything has a certain level of programming. So if we know that, and if we know we've been programmed, and if we know how the program runs and how it exists, then we have to make counter programs and start that at an early age with children so that we can get ourselves out in the coming generations, because we spend too much time focusing in on what's happening right now. You know, now it is what it is. You know, but in the future, we have to be able to create and develop, and that's at the palm of our hands. You know, the way I always tell people, I tell parents this when I go into schools, you know, I tell, you know, people with kids, you know, what we do today is going to be the ultimate outcome of what, you know, the next generation looks like. It literally is in the palm of our hands. Now, what we do with that is up to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
I would add 3 points. One of the things you said was we shouldn't be here. And that's a fact. When Lyndon Baines Johnson was president, he authorized something called the Kerner Report. And it was a study of Black folks in America from the time that Plymouth Rock dropped on our head, as Malcolm X would remind us, you know, all the way up to the present moment, all the way up to the moment at that particular time. And the Kerner Report said that with the racism, the Jim Crowism, the public lynching, the segregation, the real estate divide, et cetera, that Black people should not exist in America.
Right.
They couldn't find a reason why we existed. Now we know now that there's a power within us that's greater that's in the world.
That's right.
So we can exist. So that's one point. The second point is what you said earlier when you went through building legacy. And everything you just said right now, again, I'm not going to repeat that. We have to begin to, that's how we deal with the situation we're in now.
Right.
And thirdly, we have to understand our identity. The law matches how we identify ourselves. So if you see yourself just as a Black man in America, you basically evoke the law of racism, the ceiling, oppression, and all of those memories that are coded within us from generations. So we are universal citizens. First, yes, we have an incarnation as being a Black man or Black woman or whatever we are. That's secondary to our real identity. So as we begin to go within and discover that we've existed before we had this incarnation, that we are a universal citizen, here to reflect and to reveal the cosmos. Now we're using the law at the highest level. And it begins to take this body that's in the form of a Black man, but now I'm active, now it's registering that I'm a universal presence. All my needs get met. My body heals everything. I catch ideas, I catch inspiration. And even though there may be within me the predisposition for the trauma based on my ancestors, I'm using the law as a universal citizen to reveal abundance and prosperity and health. So we can't just say, I'm a Black person. We have to, you know what that is? That's a lampshade. But that's not the light.
That's right.
It's a lampshade. We want the light to so shine through us that as a brown person, a Black person, a yellow person, a white person, there's a lot of poor white people too.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that.
That whatever the lampshade is, we're not cutting off the light by misidentifying ourselves. We go with the universal, then it comes through the individual.
Yeah, powerful.
500 years is a long time. And there is a trauma when we're not telling a shared story, when there hasn't been truth and reconciliation.
It's true.
And I think I would just want to acknowledge that is a real problem. That's a real trauma. But as any part of the story, time existed before 500 years ago.
Yes,
So there's a
yes.
long human story when we think about who we are, who our ancestors were, how I see myself on the planet now when I look at that much longer story, and get to the now and say, well, what will we do now? How will we help each other now? I think the now is very exciting because there's so many possibilities of how we can support each other, how we can resource each other. I think the future is exciting. And I think the deeper past is inspiring. But there is a wound there that I think the whole of society will be enriched when we do reach a point of saying, this was what happened. We need that in Australia as well.
You did it better than us, though.
Nowhere near close to doing that in Australia. I would dare to say most Australians don't know why there is a race problem in Australia because they haven't been taught the real history of Australia. And until there's a shared understanding there's going to be a wound in Australia as well. But if we just sit around waiting for that truth and reconciliation process, we've just given all our power away. We would like to have that. It would be a bonus. It would be healing. But it doesn't stop us from imagining a new future and start building it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And we had a history before slavery.
Exactly.
We had way before slavery. We had a history. And if you go even before that, we come from the mystery,
Yes.
which we have all the power.
That's right.
And I think you guys did a little bit better in Australia than we did in America in terms of truth and reconciliation. At least you began the process a little bit better. I remember when Clinton tried to bring that up as president, and they slammed him for even trying to even bring it up about making amends to the African Americans that were here. But that is necessary to heal.
Well, yes, there has been that in terms of reparations, but in Australia, we're still at the point where most Australians don't know what happened
With the
to the
Aboriginals.
Aboriginal Australians, and that's not acceptable.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. We got to take another quick break for another commercial. We want to talk about the Mercedes-Benz AMG giveaway. All right. So we're giving away a Mercedes-Benz AMG. This car only has about 15,000 miles. It still has a factory warranty. Remember, we gave away the Ford Sport. Then we gave away a Rolls-Royce Ghost. Then we gave away an Audi A4 recently at the Forbidden Conscious Awards. Now we're raffling off a Mercedes-Benz AMG. It's a great car. Most people can't even afford to keep the car, so you may not want to sell it. You may want to keep it, but if you decide to sell it, it's up to you. You can sell it for whatever the value is, all right? But what do you have to do? Get a raffle ticket for $44. Make sure you scan that QR code, get a raffle ticket, and everybody wins because the money that you spend on the ticket goes to communities and schools. So we donate a portion of this money to communities and schools to help underprivileged children out of Detroit, all right? And these kids are so thankful. And so we got such heartfelt thanks from these children. They're getting clothes in the winter. Some of them were homeless. They're getting put into homes or having shelter. They're getting mentors. They're getting tutors. Everything they need to make themselves whole and to get through to the next level as a person, as a human being on this planet. So it's not just because they're in Detroit. It's because they're kids, and kids don't choose where they're born and what city they live in. All right. So get a raffle ticket and help a child, and you just might win that Mercedes-Benz AMG. All right. So now getting back to the topics here, we're going to shift a little bit into a different frequency. We're going to talk about clean energy, reducing reliance on fossil fuels and transitioning to clean energy sources. And I'll kind of start off by talking about some people might get a little upset, but I'm going to talk about these EVs, these electric cars. These electric cars were pushed on us as the solution and a green solution to driving around. Come to find out through my research that they're not. The electric vehicles are more detrimental and dangerous for the environment than combustion engines. They're extremely toxic, number one. The batteries leach into the soil and destroy the water table. And there is no way to actually refurbish or renew these aged batteries from these older cars that are put out of commission, right? There's no recycling process. And the reason why there's no recycling process is because Elon Musk created the battery, the one that's mostly used, and he made it DIY. In other words, he made it open source, which was smart because that way there's no patent. Everybody can make this battery, and he created an industry called the EV industry. So he can actually put his cars out. You had to create an industry so you can sell the cars. Right. So that was pretty smart, I ain't gonna lie. But the problem we have here is everyone created the battery differently. So because of that, there's no one process to recycle these batteries instead of throwing them in huge dumps. So we have, like, for example, there's one junkyard with over 1 million EV cars in it and all those toxic batteries leaching into our environment, as well as the fact that when under certain conditions, they just explode and catch on fire. The next thing behind that is we have the lithium, right, and the cobalt that's used to make these batteries. Yeah. But they're coming out of forced child labor mines in Africa.
That's right.
So you've got little kids. I'm talking about if there was a school there, they'd be in grade school, mining with their bare hands, no machinery, pulling ore out of the ground. And the reason why they use kids is because some of these are not real mines. They're like holes in the ground, and they could put them in these weird holes in these slots that only a kid can fit inside of. Yeah. And they're being forced to work for just like some bread for the day, you know, and if they don't work hard, they get beat.
Right.
And so it's a travesty what's going on there. And so we have forced child labor pulling this ore out of the ground to help make these electric cars. And then on top of that, you look at from the other side, what happens when a rogue nation or a militia says, you know what, if we take over this mine in this remote area, we're going to take over 2/3 of the production of the EV market batteries and laptops and everything, and wherever lithium batteries need to go. We can slow down the progress, and we can hold the world ransom and say, until you wire money into this account, we're not going to release this mine. We're going to keep this mine sealed. And then you're going to see computer prices skyrocket, car prices skyrocket, anything that has any kind of lithium battery in it whatsoever is going to begin to skyrocket. Because there was no forward thinking in this whole EV thing. Utilizing third world labor, unregulated labor, to produce a multi-trillion-dollar industry is not that smart. Probably one of the dumbest things I've seen in a very, very long time.
Profit.
So all about profit, and that profit doesn't have any longevity. Right. So one of the things I started talking about years ago was the fact that we got to move back towards hydrogen. Hydrogen for combustion is it's the most abundant element in the universe, number one. You can extract hydrogen through a process of electrolysis from water. You can separate the hydrogen atoms from the water, and you can push it into a crankshaft for combustion. And the only thing you're going to get in exhaust is going to be some steam. Right. Pure, clean steam that you can actually drink. Right. Okay. And so hydrogen is really the future of the world. And to add some more credibility, after I made that video I made the first time, all of a sudden now, I don't know if they were listening to me now, maybe they were already figuring this out, but now you can start seeing more hydrogen-powered engines want to start coming out, right? Yes. And I just read the other day some big press release, just a couple of days ago, I think a couple of weeks ago, Tesla has the Model H coming, which is hydrogen. Hydrogen. Yeah. Right. So, but that's a good start. That's why I brought it. It's a good start. We have to move towards hydrogen. We got to get away from coal and oil and gas. And I know that means a lot of people in a lot of places, these guys all the way at the top of the pyramid are not going to like it. But we got to force this thing towards hydrogen powered airplanes, hydrogen powered cars. The Navy has a tanker, a rig that actually pulls in from the ocean. It separates the salt through a process of desalination. Right. It pushes some into another tank for bathing and drinking, and then the rest of it is using electrolysis extraction for the hydrogen. It never has to come ashore. It never has to go refuel anywhere on the water. It can go in perpetuity. It can just keep on going, right? In perpetuity, whatever you say. So basically, it never has to come back. And so we need to look at this as a real solution, because you're talking about a significant carbon footprint reduction. And then the plants, see the plant that builds these electric cars, or one of Elon Musk's plants, has one of the largest carbon footprints on the planet. So he's making EV cars that are, at a factory that's using oil, burning oil and coal to power the machines to build the electric cars. And then the psychology behind the electric cars, and I'm on this electric car thing because I'm really against it, is because the electric cars themselves are still using oil. Because when you plug it in, the power plant down the street uses oil to generate electricity. It's just an alternative way of generating oil. And the last thing about them is, of course, it's another way for the government and the corporations to keep you restricted to specific areas. You can't leave out of your area in the EV. Right now, we're in the bottom of Florida. If there's an evacuation, that hurricane is out there right now. If it was really coming here, they would have put an evacuation order, right? But it's curbing up, fortunately, or we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. We would be leaving the state.
Down.
Right, exactly. And but the thing is, there would be an evacuation order. Well, these EV cars have an average of 250 to 270 miles on average. Right. And so how are we going to get out of Florida? You're stuck. Right. And then when the traffic is bogged down, stop and go, it drains faster. Right. So you might make it to Melbourne, Florida, or Palm Bay. You might even make it to Daytona, but you're not going to get out of here. And now you have no way to recharge the car. The lines for the recharge are longer than the lines for the gasoline, because it's a 30-minute recharge, if you can even find a place to plug in. And let's not even talk about the crime. There's women who are pulling up to these charging stations, and there's men preying on them, knowing that they're going to hop out and go to the charger. The doors are unlocked. They jump right in and steal the purse. In some cases, they rob the women. So it's a major problem. You know, we got to move away from fossil fuels, and I don't even like calling them fossil fuels because they're not from fossils.
Yeah.
We didn't get oil.
I agree.
We didn't get oil. Listen, out there, kids, listen, if you're listening to me, parents, adults, whoever, we didn't get oil from dead trees and dinosaur bones.
That's
It
right.
didn't happen. Oil is the amniotic fluid of the earth itself.
Yes.
The earth is creating
Blood.
this oil. It's the blood of the earth. There's never going to be peak oil. That was a lie from the beginning. There's never going to be peak oil. If I drill a hole now and tap an oil well and I empty it, I come back in 30 years. Why is there more oil in the well?
Yes.
Right? Why do we keep mining diamonds out of the earth and we meet peak diamond? No, we haven't reached peak diamond. The diamonds keep coming back. The earth is creating diamonds. The earth is creating all these gems.
Yeah.
It's part of the earth's body. The earth is actually a living entity.
Yes.
That's very good.
It's a living entity.
Yes.
It's never going to run out. Now, of course, we can abuse Earth, and when it gets pissed off enough,
Yes.
it's going to shake us off its surface.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about one light sneeze, and we're done.
Yes.
So, but again, we have to, it's the programming of fossil fuels. I remember as a teenager laughing at that term because I knew already that in my mind it didn't make any sense. All the studying I'd done on geology, it didn't make any sense to me. And so we got to get away from calling this fossil fuels. Well, we got to get away from the oil. We have to find a way to push these elite oligarchs out of the way and continue to release these new technologies that can free the burden of mankind energy crisis and bring energy to the furthest reaches of the planet into third world areas. And the best way to do that right now, from what I can see, is hydrogen, because everybody has water everywhere. Not everybody has water, but you can find water in most places. Even if it's dirty water, you can find it. And so I think that we got to find a way to really push hydrogen.
Yeah, I agree.
We've got
I have a friend who has a hydrogen car, and I've even seen in LA recently some of the buses say using hydrogen.
That's the first place that they only allowed LA to do it.
Yes, I've seen those. And the other thing, I'm not going to repeat what you said, but in terms of that battery, it's also bad for your health. If you're riding on top of a battery in a Tesla, then you're sitting right on top of a battery, you're getting radiation, and individuals are starting to get pains, unexplained pains in their body and hips, and they don't know why they're in pain. So one health professional that was getting a lot of people that were just sick, and they were just 90% of them all were driving a Tesla.
Wow.
And so there is technology similar to mobile phones that you can put in the Tesla to block the batteries.
Right.
But as you're saying, they shouldn't be built anyway for all the reasons you've already discussed. And the right use of technology would be to go about this a whole other way. And I think I agree with you. Hydrogen is the next wave of where we should be living.
I agree. I mean, we have water. So we can do hydrogen. My kids are going to be so disappointed about what you said, Billy, because they love the design of the Tesla.
Oh, it's cool design.
It's a cool design.
Fast too.
But it has all these issues. We have water. We have wind. We have a wonderful item just nearby called the sun. And I loved a graphic I saw once of our little planet here and the sun here. And the caption is, I just don't understand why this can't power this. Of course it can. We've got all these resources to harness. The planet is here supporting us. You're absolutely right about oil not being a fossil fuel. It was 36 years ago that was announced by a very eminent scientist, the same scientist who discovered the hole in the ozone layer, had been eminent right up until that point. And then when he said, these are not fossil fuels, no, he must have made a mistake. So it's taken a long time for that information to filter through. But I would add something else to the mix because I'm an ET contact guy. And I happen to believe that we've been in contact for a while and that there's technology available through that contact. So I share the late Ed Mitchell's view that we have access to 0 point power, but that it's not been exploited. Why? Oligarchs.
There you go.
Why the elites. Australians are being held to ransom in terms of renewable energy because we're in the perfect place for hydrogen, in the perfect place for solar, in the perfect place for wind. The government is stymieing that because, well, if it was another country, we'd call it corruption. Because it's where I live, I have to say it's political donations. Yeah. But that is what is slowing the change. And just as long as we live in countries where political donations are not illegal, we're going to see the brakes put on the change that we need. Yeah. And I really think people need to start voting for reform of our politics. Yeah. Because unless we tackle the issue of political donations, all the good that we'd love to see is going to be blocked by the people who won't make money from it. Yeah, and we have to tackle that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's go ahead, Riff.
That's everything you're saying is the same for America as well. There was a bill that was trying to be passed a number of years ago, forcing the individuals that make our iPhones put something in that would prevent the radiation from going into your brain if you hold it like this. Particularly for children who don't have the structure yet to prevent this. And they successfully, through lobbying, blocked the passing of that bill. All the money that they paid to block the passing of that bill, they could have used to retrofit this, of course, so that the radiation would not go into your brain. But it's money, profit, political donations.
Political donations. That's one of the biggest problems we have. The political system, some people stay in there for decades.
Oh my God.
You know, if we're changing out presidents every 4 years, you know, some of these people who've been around in some of these countries, they've been around for decades. We have to fight for change, a complete global economic change, global economic reform in some way, shape, or form. I don't know exactly how it could be done or how to do it. I'm not going to lie. But I just know that the existing system, the way it is, which is suppressing technologies that can free us up. Like you're talking about 0-point energy.
Yeah.
We know that it exists based on quantum physics. In other words, at every Planck unit in space-time exists an unparalleled, unlimited amount of power. And we know this for a fact. And there are machines from inventors who have tapped into this field and their inventions have been completely suppressed.
Yes.
I do have one solution that we can bring. If you are an inventor listening right now, if you can tap into any of these ambient energies, electromagnetic frequencies, 0-point energy, you know how to make perpetual motion devices that can generate more power than they're getting in, that can kind of violate the law of thermodynamics. If you have that kind of technology, do not patent it. That's where everyone goes wrong. Yes. They go straight to the patent office. I want to patent this because I want to be this $1 trillion inventor. That's the wrong idea, because as soon as you patent it, it goes on the shelf and you'll never see it again. Right. And you may never see the light of day again.
Right.
We know that for a fact.
You know, we were talking about the water situation in Flint and other places. And I know at one point in Flint, there was that machine that produced water out of air.
Yes, I remember that.
Remember that? And somebody came in and destroyed it.
Yes.
And of course, the water was free.
Yeah.
He also has them in certain places of Africa as well. Now, there's another technology that produces electricity for free. And it's not patented.
Yeah.
If they just Google it, hopefully it doesn't get taken down.
Yeah.
You know, how to produce electricity for free. They give you a step-by-step process of how to put this in your home in case of a blackout.
Yeah.
And it will take the energy and produce it light or whatever you need. These things exist. And you're right. Yeah. If it gets patented, it's gone. But you can research these things and you can begin to implement them in your home. Yeah. A lot of people in New York have it because of the last blackout that they had many years ago. But these things have been suppressed for years. Free energy, 0-point energy, hydrogen, water. Right now, you can still go on the internet and buy a water dispenser right now, in which the water is created from the air in your house. It exists today.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Which third world countries can definitely use right now, which is why that guy who has that machine, I'm glad he took some to Africa. Right, because they need clean water over there so severely. But it's just like, wow, this, you know, there's this documentary that just came out, which was produced by Dr. Stephen Greer. It's called The Lost Century. And in there, they reveal a lot of technologies that have been held back from mankind. He actually goes and visits with a lot of these inventors. And this is like how you do, Zeke. You have somebody always recording. Well, he was pulling up the old recordings, right? You can see him in these little makeshift laboratories and talking to these inventors and stuff like that. Some would show their face, some wouldn't show their faces. They had these incredible inventions. And he was begging them, please don't patent this, put it open source. You can still make a lot of money, but once you patent it, eminent domain takes over and it becomes a shelf product. And some of those guys got killed.
I was going to say the same thing.
Some of those guys were X'd out in broad daylight too. And some of them, they were, lies were made up about them. Some got arrested and locked up and then threatened, if we'll release you, but if you ever build this again, you'll be right back in here, and those kind of things. So open sourcing is really the secret. So I have a tech company called First Class Space Agency, and we're going to be doing open source, technology. And all the technology is never going to go to the patent office. It's going straight to the open source, straight to the forums. Everybody here's the blueprint. Now let's all collaborate together and perfect this and make it better.
Yes.
Right? Like I developed a perpetual motion generator. The problem I'm having with this generator is I'm not getting out enough output power, right? I'm getting the generator on. It's working off electromagnetism. The only thing that can stop it is your hand. Like if I put my hand and stop them from spinning, but if I never touch it, it'll spin forever, right? And it generates electricity. A small amount, charge a cell phone, turn on a light bulb. But to get it to do bigger things, it would need torque and then you need an engineer to help with the torque and the ratio and things like that, right? But this is how we build together and get away from what these elites been pushing on us, right? And we get into what we want to do, which is something revolutionary, but we have to collaborate together. We go into the forums, we go into these online sites like Reddit or whatever, and we begin to talk back and forth, and we begin to collaborate, maybe set up some private forums where we can shoot ideas and information and research back and forth to where we can perfect something as a group, as a team, and everybody has a copy of this. So the black suits can't come knock on my door and shut me down.
That's right.
Because 1 million people have it too.
Right.
There's nothing they can do at that point.
That's good.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like y'all said most of y'all hit the key points on that. I would just like to add, as long as this is in the hands of politicians and government, it's always going to be one of those things to where who got the most money is going to make the most, going to have the final say with things, and that don't necessarily mean that it's going to be the right decision. Because just like you said, when you start to balance, okay, what's the pros and the cons, even with the electric vehicles and things of that nature, I'm sure some of these people are smart enough to see, this is kind of harmful too as well. But I just feel that we really need to, as people, have more power and say so when it comes to these things, and not just once again play a game of Simon Says.
Absolutely.
We didn't know what we didn't know then.
Yeah.
The EVs first came out. It was a whole environmental thing. We didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah, we didn't know.
Now we know.
Now we know. Listen, I was hyped.
Me too.
These are pretty. I kind of didn't like the interiors because they're kind of plain, but I thought the idea was pretty cool, you know.
Yeah.
And then I saw that truck he's got